Welcome into the Heat Report by Chat Sports. I am Nic Rohloff. On the first day of NBA free agency, and the Miami Heat have actually made two moves to everyone's surprise. Here are the two moves, and we start off with Josh Richardson, the Rook. 2 is coming back home. I absolutely am elated by this signing by the Miami Heat. We'll go in more depth on Josh Richardson, but also Kevin Love re-signs on a 2-year deal as well. So both these guys, Richardson and Kevin Love, getting 2-year deals at the minimum, but that second year are player options for both guys. But we will start with Josh Richardson signing a 2-year, $6 million deal, which is a minimum contract. The first year is guaranteed. The second year is a player option. So there is a very good potential where Josh Richardson outperforms what he did in his past 3 to 4 years, plays well back in Miami, and then opts out in test free agency next offseason. But I love this pickup for Miami. Obviously, was a first-round pick for the Heat back in 2015, I believe. Played very well in his first 2 to 3 years. I am old enough to remember when Heat fans didn't even want to offer Josh Richardson in the sign-and trade for Jimmy Butler. Yeah, you heard that right. Josh Richardson was in the trade to Philadelphia when the 76ers sent the Heat Jimmy Butler. Now the Heat have both of them. How ironic is that? But let's look at what Richardson did this past season. He started out the year with the San Antonio Spurs and played pretty well. 11.5 points per game, 3.5 assists, a steal a night as well, shooting 43.6% from the field and shooting 35.7% from 3. Now he gets transferred over to the New Orleans Pelicans at the deadline, and he underperformed in New Orleans. I think he would be able to admit that as well. He just didn't find a role there. As a 3-and-D wing in New Orleans, he was behind Herb Jones, behind Trey Murphy, Brandon Ingram. There just wasn't a lot of playing time for Josh Richardson in New Orleans, and his numbers declined because of that. 7.5 a night, 1 to 6 boards. The defense is still there, and it always has been there for Josh Richardson, a really good defender. 1.3 steals per game for him at New Orleans, 41.9% from the field, 38.4% from 3, and that's the big key to me is his 3-point shooting. Now let's look at what he's done since leaving Miami. This is actually a perfect graphic for a multitude of reasons. He played 3 to 4 seasons in Miami and then gets traded in that Jimmy Butler trade, played in Philadelphia in 2019-20, then was going to the Mavericks, then Celtics and Spurs, and then Spurs and Pelicans. So he's been on the move a lot lately, but there is one thing that always remains, and it is his production, 13.7 points per game in his season in Philadelphia, 12.1 in Dallas, 10 at Celtics and Spurs in 2021 too, and then 10 again this past season. But I think one number is blatantly clear here, and he's a good defender. And he will be able to come off the bench for Miami and play well, be great havoc in passing lanes off the bench, almost a steal a night every season since he's left Miami, and he's gotten better shooting the 3-ball as well. Obviously, it's going to be hard to top his 2021-22 season, where he shot 41.53% from 3. He certainly will not do that again in his career. He's a good 3-point shooter, probably in between that 34 to 37 range. That's his average. He won't do 41.5, but he is a very reliable 3-and-D player that will come off the bench for Miami, and a good signing at the minimum. And I actually have some more notes on Josh Richardson. He shot 37% on spot-ups this past year and 46% on mid-range pull-ups this past season. He was really good at shooting the basketball. And I think another cool part about him coming back to Miami is that there were larger offers out there. He chose to come back and play for the Miami Heat. Barry Jackson kind of reported this, and he mentioned that Richardson had a larger offer with another team in free agency, but Coach Eric Spoelstra, called him up and pitched to him what his role would be in Miami, to take less money, come back home, the team that drafted you, improve your stock, and potentially hit the free agent market next year again. I really like this signing. Richardson is betting on himself and coming back home to play for the Miami Heat and hopefully help this team get over the hump and win an NBA championship. I love this signing. But I got to ask you guys, you grade the signing. A, B, C, D, or F. I personally would grade this an A-. And I know you're going to say that's probably way too high to give Josh Richardson an A- grade, but this dude is not worth the contract we gave him. Reggie Jackson got 2 years, $10.5 million from the Nuggets, and he didn't even scratch the floor in the NBA Finals playing the Miami Heat. Now, the Heat are able to get a player on that caliber, or arguably better, a 3-and-D wing off the bench for $6 million over 2 years, with it being a 1-and-1 with a player option in the back half. It's an A- for me, but let me know what you guys think the grade is for this Josh Richardson signing. And this is also why you subscribe to the Heat Report. I mentioned in an earlier show that when the Heat make moves, we will keep you updated throughout the entire offseason and free agency, and here we are. So hit that sub button. But that wasn't the only move the Miami Heat made in the past 2 or 3 hours. They also re-signed power forward Kevin Love. The Heat bought him out, or didn't buy him out, but signed him in the buyout market after the trade deadline last season, and he was an integral part of this Heat team making an NBA Finals run. Was it his production? Not really, but his vibes in the locker room, his experience is what really mattered for the Miami Heat in this past playoff run. But this is what he did when his production side of things in the past season. He started out with Cleveland, and in 41 games, he didn't see the floor that often, but when he did, he scored 8.5 points a night, 6.8 rebounds, shot 39% from the field. That's not great, but 35.4% from three, that is pretty solid. And then when he played for the Miami Heat in the regular season, 7 points a game, 5 rebounds, 2 assists, 38% from the field, which isn't great. And he struggled shooting the three. It could have been the move over from Cleveland to Miami, but I think that number could improve this upcoming season when he's back in Miami for a full year. This is what he's done in his past 4 years, and unfortunately for Kevin, it has been a steady decline for the former All-NBA All-Star player. 17.6 points per game wasn't that long ago. He was one of the best player on the Cleveland Cavaliers with LeBron, or that was the first year LeBron left, so Kevin Love was really on his own there, and then went down to 12.2 points per game, and the following year he almost won Sixth Man of the Year when Tyler Hero won it. Kevin Love was in the running as well, putting up 13.5 points a night on, look at that efficiency, 43% from the field, 39% from three. Kevin Love was outstanding last year, and then this year obviously he took that hard decline. But I want to ask you guys, what is your one-word reaction to these signings for the Miami Heat? I think mine is love. And I think it's kind of cliche to say I love it, but I just mentioned how much I love what Josh Richardson brought the Miami Heat and what he's going to bring the Miami Heat. And now Kevin Love is going to do that same thing. He'll likely come off the bench next season, and he'll just be another mentor. You talk about Udonis Haslem retiring for the Miami Heat. I'm not saying Kevin Love's going to have that same impact that UD had, because no one will have OG40's impact, but Kevin Love will be able to be that veteran on the bench that can play when called upon, but also be the mentor and an experienced veteran that can help lead this Miami Heat team. Before we sign out of here, I want to say make sure you subscribe, but like I said, there's one more piece of news, and it is Gabe Vincent officially has left the Miami Heat. He signed a 3-year deal with the Los Angeles Lakers, so the Heat will not be having their starting point guard throughout the NBA playoffs back, and that is one position that I expect the Heat to continue to look at throughout this free agency process. They still have Kyle Lowry on this roster. If they don't trade him, they are going to need to have a backup point guard for him, and especially if they don't get Damian Lillard, they're going to need a point guard to back up Lowry, and even if they do get Damian Lillard, they're going to have to sign a backup point guard for him, so expect the Heat to go out and get a guard very, very soon. That's going to do it for today's show. If the Heat make another move, we'll be here, so that's why you hit that sub button.